As I said, my name is Theo Wolfscott. I'll be your sort of educator, online lecturer for this module, and I've been with SACAP for a while, and also sort of been teaching and lecturing as well for quite a while as well. So this is sort of my thing, the thing that I do. Amongst other things, I also sort of run my own business as well. How are you guys seeing me? Are you seeing me with my face on the one side and the screen on next to that type thing?
Yes, Theo.
Okay, great. Okay. Yeah, so this is a little bit about me, and this course is a little bit different from everything else. So let me talk a little bit about my sort of teaching philosophy. If we just hold on 1 second. Sorry about that. Our dogs, this is also the time when our dogs start going crazy because everybody else walks their dogs past the gate and then they run out. So the way I teach is very much to facilitate the learning process, and also a lot of my teaching has been with, especially my online teaching, is with adults, and I find that with you guys, especially you guys that are doing sort of part-time studies, you're working, and you kind of want to learn at your own pace and in your own time, and having somebody sort of tell you do this now and it doesn't work. So what I do is I provide all of the resources. You do what you do. You get going with your stuff. You study when you have time, and sometimes it might be over a weekend. It might be during the evening. It might be during, when you have time. And sometimes work gets in the way, life gets in the way, and you skip 1 or 2 weeks and you catch up at the later stage. So what I've done is I'm going to prepare all of the content ahead of time. You'll have access to it, and it will consist of sort of different learning activities, whether it's reading, whether it's discussion, whether it's a podcast, whether it is a video, whether it is some sort of assessment. And in most cases, there will be a quiz for the week. Each week has a little 15 question quiz. And that 15-question quiz then counts towards your module engagement mark. These online sessions are not, they're not compulsory. All of them are generally sort of recorded, and I post them the next day and so forth. So that's really how I treat you. I treat you as we're walking the sort of the road together, instead of me standing on the stage. I'm here, I know everything, and you know nothing, and I'm here to share my great wisdom and knowledge with you. No, that's not sort of how learning works, and that's not how I teach as well. A lot of things I learn with you because you bring your own experience, your own life experience, your own work experience into the classroom. And I encourage that, especially with this module. This model requires a lot of talking. This isn't a model where I put up a slide and I'm going to run through the slide and you sit there and you sort of just take things in like an empty cup. You bring a lot of your own sort of understanding to it. And some of the stuff, some of the things in this module are very deep. So you have a choice. I mean, it's not like a technical module like accounting and finance or business management, which feels like history where you're just regurgitating stuff, or strategy, or leadership, or economics, for instance, which is very technical, and you kind of have to know what a demand curve looks like. If you don't know, you don't know. And finance, if you don't understand the basic sort of financial, if you don't know what a statement of comprehensive income is and how you draw the numbers into it, if you don't understand financial ratios, then kind of you don't know, and you have to learn. So those are sort of skills-based modules, whereas this one is a lot more about sort of, here's a concept, let's tease out the implications of the concept and how it sort of sits with you and how it sits within the context that you find themselves. Does that make sense? Do you have any questions at this point?
No questions so far, but it absolutely makes sense. Thank you.
Okay, great. And this is like one of those modules where you can either get 90% for it or you can get 75% for it. It's between those two. It is a very difficult module to not do well in. The only way you can not do well in it is if you literally leave everything for the last minute and you rush through it and you submit stuff using AI, and it just, I can see it, I can detect it, and then I mark you down. And then also report you on top of things. But it's one of those modules, we just do literally the minimum each week. You do your quizzes, you do your readings, you work through it, you do a little bit of this, work on the assessments, there's 2 assessments. Now this is where things get interesting. The second assessment is a group-based assessment. So now things get a bit more interesting. So it's an extra bit of spice into the mix where you now have to navigate those relationships in a group. But overall, it's one of those modules where you can literally chill through it and you can do more than okay in it. It is not terribly difficult. On the other hand of it, if you really throw yourself into it and you really get stuck into it, you can really take a lot from it. And I'll share a lot of resources where if you choose, you can read through it and you can work through it and you're going to go, oh, this is actually quite interesting. It actually has quite a big impact. It's quite deeply philosophical, deeply moral, deeply ethical. So it has far-ranging, stretching impact on the world that we live in. So you can look at this model as this amazing thing that's sort of deeply philosophical, deeply sort of moral, sort of looks at ethics both from a historical point of view, but also ethics and morality in a modern day context, how businesses operate, and sort of question those things. It might lead to a midlife crisis, so maybe don't. But so you have those 2 options, and I'll provide the research. I'll provide the resources for you to be able to do that if you so choose. But if you don't, you can get through it at just by doing the basics, and you can do well in it. Get a good first assessment, do all of the quizzes, work well in your group, submit a decent report, and off you go. The group work, though, is quite significant, and there's quite a bit of work that goes into it. So hope that you're in a good group where people work together, but that's part of navigating working in a team, whether you're working at work or whether you're in an organization where teams are concerned. So when we talk about sustainability, yes.
Sorry to jump in. Group work. I think if I remember now, you counted. We're quite a small group. Is the intent that we find our own sort of little groups, or are you going to divide us into groups?
I'm going to randomly do that because it's just easier and it takes the pressure off people. Go through people's LinkedIn profiles to see whether they are right fit for them. So I will or stalk them on WhatsApp to see what kind of people they are before you go into a group. So I will randomly just choose. If there's 10, it's most probably going to be 3 groups or 4 groups. 3 groups most probably, sort of 4-4-3 or so 3-3-4 type thing. It's okay. Much better if you have a nice big group of like 4, because then you can share a lot of the work between you, because it is quite a chunky piece of work. It's quite I won't say substantial, but it's quite a bit of work. It goes not difficult. It's a lot of work that goes into getting that group assignment together and then submit it. And obviously, there's element of peer review in which you end up reviewing each other and giving each other feedback on how you work together.
Thanks. Cool.
Thanks.
Alrighty.
Theo,
Yes.
can I just ask, is there a prescribed textbook that we need to purchase?
There is a Bouchard textbook, but you don't need to purchase it. You can link. It is linked by EBSCOhost, so it is a Barden's textbook. Let me just get maybe. Okay, now I don't have it on here. Yeah, there we go. Barden's it's Weiss et al. And if you click on the link in your
Module,
there it is, yeah,
module outline.
Yeah, or you can just search for it via EBSCOhost. If you go to the dashboard, you'll see on the side there it says EBSCOhost. You can search for it there and then just make that a bookmark so that you'll be able to go back to the textbook. So the textbook, you'll be able to read it online, and that's for free, obviously. You can't download the pages, unfortunately, but you can also buy the physical book if you want it. So it's not. Listen, I wouldn't go out there and buy it. Just read it online.
Okay, no, great, thank you.
Obviously, you can't make notes, and you feel, like you're not really having something in your hands, but you'll be okay. Especially with the quizzes, because all of the quizzes are out of the textbook. So you'll just have one page open on the one side where the textbook is open for chapter 2, and then you'll have the quiz going, and there'll be 15 questions, and then you can quickly go through chapter 2. Okay, here's a question. Where's that question again in chapter 2, or where's that question again in chapter 3? So you'll be okay. And then obviously for the assignment and for the group assignment, you'll reference the textbook and other readings as well. Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Perfect. Thank you so much.
All righty. Excellent. So as I said earlier, the first assessment is a submission, which is a white paper and ethical case study, which is very much application based. And then the second one is a group assignment. And I would encourage you to have a look at that group assignment now already, because I'll be doing the groups this week. And then I'll be sending out the groups and saying, listen, here's the groups. Please get in contact with each other as soon as possible and set up because part of that group case study is a process of submitting contact. So the first part of that case study is actually almost like the mechanics of how the group came together, how often you met, how did you resolve conflict, etc. So getting together, almost like meeting on a weekly basis, right from the beginning, even if the first 2 or 3 weeks are just, hi, my name is this is what I'm doing, etc. Getting to know each other will definitely help with that. So that by the time you finish submitting your first assessment, you can get stuck into the group assignment immediately without wasting too much time, because the gap between the two are not much, only 2 weeks, 3 weeks actually between submissions. All right. Okay, so let me just briefly talk about any questions up to this point before I rush into today's session, which I'll not do too long. It will take about 15, 20 minutes just touching on it. Are there any questions?
All good so far, thanks. All good.
Okay. Yes, Denver?
On the quiz side, is it like one question, or is it multiple questions? Is it
15,
multiple choice questions?
Yeah, 15
maybe give us a little bit of insight. 15
multiple choice questions.
All right.
15 multiple choice questions. It takes you, it's time for 60 minutes. So you've got more than enough time. You need to pass it by 80%, but you've got 2 attempts. So the first time you do it, and then you get feedback on it, and they will tell you these are the questions that you got wrong, and then you get another attempt to do it. So the second time you should get 100%.
Thanks.
But it's meant to, the quiz is just meant to sort of be a pause point. Okay, it is based on the reading. At least I can check, have you done the reading? But that's all it is. And it takes this whole engagement thing out of the equation, because sometimes, I don't know how you guys did engagement in the past, but sometimes it gets complicated. Like you can't miss this session, or you must submit this thing, you must have so many forum discussions, and then it gets just complicated. Then I have to capture all of that on the spreadsheet. So no. Here's the quizzes, and there's 8 of them. You don't have to complete all 8. You only have to complete 5. So pass 5 with more than 80%, then you get your full 20% of the engagement mark. Obviously, if you do less than 5, then you'll get less than the 20%. If you do half, you get half, you get 10%, etc. But so if you miss one in a week, don't stress and go, oh, I missed it, oh, I'm gonna fail, will this come to an end? No, you'll have another chance next week to do another one. On top of that, I've learned the hard way on deadlines, so on due dates. So I've made all of them due the end of week 10. So you don't leave them all for week 10. Please do them each week as much as you can.
Okay.
But they're all due the end of the course, because I can't deal with 15 emails coming through. My computer died, blackout, something happened, cat ate my homework, can't find the link, couldn't do it. Can you please extend the deadline? So no, they're all due the end, but please do them as you can do them. Yeah, please. Because if you're going to leave them for the end, then you just put unnecessary pressure on yourself. All right, so I've tried to make it as, I don't want to call it easy. I was trying to make it as simple for you to navigate the course, especially for the folk which are the more mature learners that don't sit the whole day in front of the computer to do online studies. You're actually working and you're doing this part-time. It feels like it's part-time. You say part-time, but it feels like full-time. So that's the idea. So let me briefly go through the course and what the course is all about. So when we talk about sustainability, we don't just talk about sustainability in the green sense. I actually had this discussion earlier with a friend of mine. It's not in the sustainability as in the environmental sustainability only. That is part of sustainability. But when we talk about business sustainability, we talk about in the corporate, when we talk about corporate sustainability, it is in a bigger sense. It's if you want to distill it down to 3 things, it's people, planet, and profit. The organization's ethical and moral responsibility as a corporate citizen, meaning a person, or corporate citizen as a persona within community, within society, and its moral obligation towards the greater society in which it operates. That's people. Planet, its ethical and moral responsibility towards the environment in which it draws resources from, whether it's energy, whether it's water, whether it is other resources, whether it's other raw materials, whether it is through its operations, whether it is through its logistics, whether it is through its day-to-day operations. It draws resources from the environment, and its ethical and moral responsibility towards that environment. And then profit, which is its responsibility towards its stakeholders, to make sure that this organization, this corporate citizen, this thing that you have now that is generating profit, that it will continue to generate some sort of value. So now the wording changes when you start moving away from talking about profit, we talk about value, creating value for all of its stakeholders over time, whether it's for the next 20, 30, 40, 100 years. And what type of value does that mean? And how is value described? So value can be described as dividends for its shareholders, profit share for its employees, fair wages for its workers. Value can be seen as fair contracts for its suppliers. Value can be seen as products that deliver on its promise to customers. So all of these are what we call stakeholders. Value can be seen as delivering its corporate responsibility towards government and the people of the country in which it operates in, and the greater society in terms of its value that it delivers to them. It could also mean value towards sort of greater society through corporate social responsibility, meaning the money and the funding that they give towards corporate social programs and so forth. So when we talk about value, it moves away from profit for shareholders to value for stakeholders. So that's when we talk about sustainability in a greater sense. That's how it can be distilled down. People, planet, profit. And this course really is about sort of digging a bit deeper and teasing out what that means. We'll go through corporate citizen context. We'll talk about that very briefly today. Next week, we're going to go deep into a little side quest into morality and ethics and the law, which is a bit of philosophy. And then we're going to get to sort of the thing that encapsulates or drives this entire module, which is King 4, which is corporate governance. So if sustainability is the 3 Ps, people, profit, and planet, then how does one measure it? How does one guide it? How does one, what type of policies and what type of guidance do we put in place for companies to be able to deliver value for its stakeholders, to have and have a ethical and moral obligation towards greater society and the environment? What type of guidelines do we put in place? And King 4 is that set of guidelines or guardrails. Here's the set of guidelines. And if you should follow these guidelines, then you should be a sustainable business. King 4 also gives us a way of measurement, so a set of criteria to measure how well certain companies are performing against the criteria or the guidelines that are set out. Session 4 is about the leadership and strategic management. How do you drive your business? And how does strategy is just a fancy word for plan. How does your plan for your business, how does your strategic or your strategy for your business, for your big corporate, how does that drive and how does that sit within these guidelines? Is it, do you first develop your strategy and then see how it conforms to the King 4? Or do you consider King 4 first before you actually put together your strategy and say that my strategy, I've embedded and baked in King 4 into the strategy of the business? And then once you have your strategy, you then now have to manage it within the organization. And this is where the rubber hits the road. Because now what are those policies and procedures that you put in place within the organization to prevent a bread price fixing scandal, to prevent products that are dangerous to your consumers, to prevent a Enron case study, to prevent a Hewlett issue, to prevent, in South Africa, we had a couple of big ones, to prevent some of the corporate scandals that we have seen. And then session 6 is designing that program. And then 7 and 10 is really looking at corporate social responsibility, stakeholders, operations, marketing, and finance. Are all of these functions sort of speak to your organization's strategy? Great. Any questions?
No, all good so far. Thanks, Theo.
All right. If you don't stop me, I can do this all night then. You've realized. So, what is corporate citizenship? Earlier, I was talking about corporate citizenship. Corporate citizenship means responsibility beyond profit. Talking about the greater definition of sustainability. If we talk about value, delivering value to its stakeholders. And when we, so why do we use the word corporate citizen? Corporate citizen essentially says to a corporate organization, you organization, you should be responsible the same way that a person in the society will be responsible. A person within the society have to abide by certain rules and regulations and certain laws. You, corporate, must take on the persona of a citizen in society and act like a responsible citizen that ultimately abides by the laws, follows all of the legislation, and act like a good citizen in this world. A good citizen that doesn't damage the environment, a good citizen that gives back to society, a good citizen that pays their taxes, a good citizen that tries to make the world a better place, just like everybody else. That's the reason why we use this word corporate citizen, to encapsulate this idea that a corporate, a business, should act like a citizen within society. And so there's different approaches. There's the extended view, which corporates take some quasi-governmental roles. And when we talk about corporate citizenship, there's the two extremes. On the one side, you have the one extreme, which is a corporate saying, says, listen, I'm here to make profit. That is my sole function. And as long as I pay my taxes, you mustn't limit me in any way. I'm not here to do government's work. That's why I give government taxes. A portion of my profit I give to government to do government work. Fix the roads, provide healthcare, provide education, do the things that governments do. Me as a corporate, this is a very limited view. Me as a corporate, that's not my job. What I will do sometimes, I will give a donation, I'll build a creche, I'll build a hospital, I'll give some bursaries, but that's how far as it goes. And then you have the more extended view in which organizations say, we are much, because of our reach, because of our role that we play in society, we can do so much more. We can really sort of do, we can alleviate hunger, we can help with education, we can help with healthcare, we can help with this. We come alongside government and we have the sort of social contract as a corporate with government to uplift and grow society as a whole. So those are the two extremes that we have. And most organizations sort of fall in the middle between them. So why has all of this happened? Globalization really has driven, when we talk about globalization, we talk about really the big sort of, that happened sort of the early 1990s as companies became global companies, as they started trading across borders, free trade across borders. And as a lot of times, if you can just hold on 1 second. So through globalization, now suddenly companies aren't just operating in their own sort of jurisdiction, in their own market, in their own country. They're now operating globally. And now suddenly there's a different set of rules in this country, there's a different set of rules in this country, and a different set of rules in this region. And now these companies face sort of international accountability across their operations. It's no longer just good enough to sell an Apple iPhone. People want to know where that battery comes from, or people want to know how it's made. It's no longer just good enough to sell a piece of software or to sell access to a piece of software. You want to know who designs it, what are the ethical guardrails for that, and so forth. So corporates have changed a lot. Technology has shaped intellectual capital, drives competitiveness, and a lot of sort of political and legal changes have shaped corporate behavior. And I don't know whether any of you guys have heard of the concept of ESG. Tracy Denver, have you heard of the concept of ESG?
No, Theo.
Okay, so ESG is a concept that is really driven sort of investment. And in Europe specifically, ESG has become quite a big driver for corporate investment, where literally companies with, and so ESG stands for environmental, social, and governance. Environmental, social, and governance. Again, people profit. In this case, it's people, it's planet, people, and governance, which is how companies are managed, how companies govern themselves, the policy and procedures that they have in place in order to stay within these guardrails. So ESG has become quite a significant driver for investment, where laws have been put in place, where big investors like pension funds, they look at companies with good ESG scores, and it's become sort of like a rating system, where you've got a high score or you've got a low score, depending on how well you do with environment, how well you do with social investment, and how well you do in terms of corporate governance. When you know what governance, it's corporate governance. And you get either a good score or you get a bad score. And if you don't get a good score, then companies will, especially pension funds, they're required by law to withdraw the investment in you, which means then the share price goes down, you can't get loans, and you can't grow. The companies were really forced by this legislation to look at the ESG score and look at how they can drive that ESG score up. Now, there was two results of this. On the one side, there was companies that were really looking at it and doing it purposefully, mindfully, or purposefully, and they were doing it truthfully and ethically because they want to do it. They believe that it is the right thing to do. And then there was other companies that were doing very cynically, and they would buy what they call carbon credits. They would cynically have contracts. They would cynically invest some of their monies into schemes to plant trees and so forth in order to increase the score. Because for them, it was just about getting that score as high as possible so that they can get investment, better loans, government subsidies, government assistance, and so forth. And this was unfortunately the unintended consequences. Some companies did it very cynically, and other companies did it sort of more ethically. But you can do a bit of research on ESG as well. So there is the United Nations Global Compact that was signed a few years back, which is, if you guys know, it has 10 guiding principles across human rights, across labor, across the environment, across corruption. And also, if a business joins this initiative, they sort of get a little badge they can add to their website. But it also means that and again, unintended consequences, some companies did it cynically, and others did it a lot more ethically. So it was really a global drive to hold companies and corporates sort of accountable. So if we look at defining sustainable development, we look at the concept of sustainable development. And the Brundtland report in 1987 sort of introduced this definition around systems theory. And so is the interconnectivity of everything, where they essentially said through that research and through that report way back in the 1980s that if we do not have sustainable development, if we do not have sustainable development that balances what we call balances the economy, balances society, and balances the environment, if we don't consider that golden triangle, then we are going to see severe unintended consequences. One, it's environmental damage and environmental harm beyond repair. So we can't fix it. Once you start getting global warming, and once you start, cutting down a tree and deforestation, once all of these things starts happening, it is very difficult to reverse it. It takes many, many years and many decades to reverse it. If you don't balance society, the needs of society, you'll start having an unequal society. You'll have those at the bottom that don't have much, that are looking up, and a very small percentage looking down. And if you don't have a society that is looked after, a society that its needs aren't met, whether it's healthcare, whether it is through work, whether it is through earning money for own development, etc. If you don't have that, then you're also going to have severe consequences: unrest, social unrest, social sort of discontent, and with social discontent normally comes radical politics, because as society starts fragmenting, they start moving towards the edges in terms of its politics. And then the economy. If you don't have sustainable development, then the economy is going to collapse. And those will in end collapse society. And all of these things sort of work together. Weak sustainability means human and natural capital is interchangeable. Strong sustainability means the natural processes are irreplaceable. Sustainability is a guiding principle for business practice. Now, what is not in here is technology and how technology has impacted this idea of sustainable development, whether it is the internet in the mid-1990s and now AI and robotics in where we are finding ourselves right now. And that sort of brings up a couple of interesting questions. All right. I will post these notes for you. Let me just check the time. Post these notes for you tomorrow with the session. What I would like you guys to do is please have a look at the SAPI case study. Have a look at how they approach corporate citizen practice, environmental stewardship. Have a look at how they link profit, people, and planet, and how they balance compliance with strategic commitment. It's a very good sort of case study to look at. It is essentially look at their sustainability report and sort of think about a couple of questions. How do they balance society and environment? Are actions compliant driven or strategically deep? Compliance meaning simply that we must do this or else we're going to get in trouble, or strategically deep, which means we will do this because it's the right thing to do, and also it will drive our business forward for the next 10 to 15 to 20 years. And how do they deal with trade-offs? Because there's always trade-offs in sustainability. Because and this is what companies often say, is that if you want me to choose people on the one side, then I can choose them and pay them more money, but that means I'm going to make less profit on the other side. And they always juxtapose them, or they always have that tension. If you want me to look after the environment, I will have products that cost more money. If you want me to pay better wages, I will make less money for my shareholders. If you want me to do this in terms of invest more for the community, then I will shut down my operations, won't be as profitable in order to deliver value to my shareholders. And they always juxtapose this. They always have these trade-offs. And it's not a zero-sum argument. And I mean, this sort of tells you a little bit about my background and my history, which is a bit more of a sort of leftist worker labor history that I come from. And my perspective is that it is not a zero-sum argument. It is not an either-or argument. It is an and argument. You can pay decent wages and look after the employees and make profit. You might not make as much profit as you would if you don't pay people well, but you make enough profit and continue to make more profit because you have much better employee relationships. Ultimately, you can make good products that don't damage the environment much by doing it cleverly, by looking at innovation and so forth. It's not an either-or argument. It is a how do you learn to do both? And that's the tension always. And that's always the tension. Please, if you have some time, go and have a look at the SAPI case study. It is uploaded for you already. Have a read through it. Think about some of these questions, and it will sort of start sort of get you thinking through corporate citizenship, understanding sustainability within the wider context as we sort of kick off this course. All right. I think I'll leave it there. Are there any questions?
Just a comment. Interestingly enough, you mentioned on the previous slide about the pension fund. So I work for the Government Employees Pension Fund. So yeah. So I'm hoping that my knowledge will help me a little bit with that portion of the module. So looking forward to this, and thank you. Just a comment as well. Thank you for the initiative of having the classes, because sometimes one sits in your little corner and you struggle with something, and then sometimes it's difficult to reach out, or you don't want to reach out, or you're shy to ask questions or stuff like that. So thank you for this initiative, because I also learn with visuals and also with the engagement. I think it will help a lot. So I just wanted to make a comment on that.
Oh, awesome. Thank you very much, Tracy. Denver, how did you find the session? Is there anything that you want to comment on, or yes, and maybe your background, I think, as well?
Yeah, I think it was a good, let's say, overall introduction or overview. I must be honest, most of my career, I've been in the, let's say, in the engineering field. So I like by doing this model, I will probably get the broader business perspective going forward. So I'm also looking forward to get a real good understanding of all those concepts, especially from a, let's say, corporate citizenship, people, planet, profit perspective. The profit part normally is what, let's say, on the engineering side, what we focus on, but we tend to the people side and the planet side is normally a little bit downplayed or put on the back burner there. Yeah. But no, thanks for this. I will certainly dig into the module and get some deeper insights.
Absolutely. No, thank you, guys. Thank you, both of you, for signing on. I appreciate it. And yeah, have a good evening further. I will post the session. And also, we've got the WhatsApp group. So, I mean, Tracy, Denver, please join the WhatsApp group. I will also send the link via email as well, so that you guys can join it. And then we will see each other again next week as well. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Thanks. Goodbye. Bye-bye.
Bye.